What is up? And welcome to the Bet Chicago Sports Podcast. I'm Shane Jackson, and just as we've done every single Friday, and we'll continue to do every single Friday for the rest of the Bears season, Sean Hammond is joined with me, our Bears beat reporter, to talk all things Bears related, going into the weekend. Basically, the premise of this show every week is just to get those final bits of information heading into the weekend and try to determine what the best way is to bet this game if you're a Bears fan or a reader or listener of this show. Remember, if you are going to place your bets, do it at Caesar Sportsbook, the official odds partner of Bet Chicago Sports. Very easy to do. Just sign up. If you don't have an account, if you're watching this live, watching the video version of this, just scan the QR code right there in the lower right corner. And then your first bet, you can get up to $12.50. And if you lose, you'll get that money back. Really fun stuff for them. Great new user offer for anybody jumping into sports betting for the first time. If you're listening to this audio version at a later date, I include that code in every single article I write at shawlocal.com/bet. All free content. Very easy to do. Again, there, just click the link at Caesar Sportsbook. It'll take you right to the code as well. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Shane.
Yeah, let's get right into it. There's information at the top that's pretty important ahead of this week 3 matchup between the Bears and the Texans. Can you give us the Friday afternoon edition of maybe the injury report and important information going into the weekend?
Yeah, so I'll start with the Bears. The big one is Roquan Smith for the Bears defense. He's questionable with a hip injury. He has not practiced all week. I can say though that we did see him, on the practice field moving around in warmups or at least stretching with the team. So that seems to be a good sign. He's not just sidelined doing nothing. Meanwhile, Jalen Johnson, cornerback, he is also questionable with a quad injury. Jalen was not moving around. He was just standing on the sideline in sweats. That's not a good sign. That's an injury that apparently, according to Matt Eberflus, happened in practice. Jalen was practicing earlier this week, and then Thursday and Friday, things sort of went downhill. Something to keep an eye on. 2 really important players for this Bears defense. I tend to lean toward Roquan Smith is probably going to play. But that's just kind of a gut reaction. And the Jalen thing is a little bit concerning that he wasn't doing anything on Friday. We'll kind of just have to see how he reacts on Sunday morning. Other than that, Matt Adams, a linebacker, has already been ruled out. Dan Cruikshank, safety, more of a special teams guy, he is out. Ryan Griffin, the tight end, is out as well. Velus Jones Jr., rookie receiver, is doubtful, and he returned to practice this week, but he has not been a full participant in any practice this week. So I'm kind of leaning towards Velus is probably not going to play. Then you look at Houston, and there's nothing too concerning. They're having some issues at tight end. Brevin Jordan has been ruled out with an ankle injury. Their other tight end, Farrell Brown, is questionable. But I don't know that anybody's particularly scared of the Texans tight ends.
No, and I think that's really important to monitor going into the weekend right now because as it stands, as a Friday afternoon, the Bears are actually a 2.5-point favorite at Caesar Sportsbook. The juice is on -120, indicating that this is closer to 3 than to 2. So if it did get to the full 3 and the Bears are maybe dealing with some of those injury issues, maybe you see some smarter people ended up taking the Texans over the weekend as we get more information there. So something to keep in mind going in. But the Bears are favored. They're 1-1, but this is going to be the first time that they've been a favorite. And the goal here again is to see if it's worthy of it and if they can cover the spread. Let's look back at last week though. They're coming off their first loss of the year against the Packers. Went about as expected, really, on Sunday Night Football. But what was your biggest concern coming from that game? I know the Bears were a double-digit underdog, but it wasn't relatively close. So what was your concern watching that game coming on Sunday?
Well, it's been the talk of the town all week, and really, I don't know how you watch that game and not feel like you have some major questions about the Bears offense, and particularly their passing game, especially in that first half. Outside of that opening drive, that scripted drive at the beginning, they were not able to move the ball at all, and that is a big concern. This offense isn't going to work right unless you can get that running game going early. I know they got it going late in the game and they had that big long drive where they everything was on the ground, and that's great. But you got to be able to do that from the start of the game in the first quarter, because that's going to open up opportunities in the play action passing game. And we haven't seen that really in either of the two games that the Bears have played. They've gotten off to slow starts offensively, particularly in the running game, and that's hurt them. I don't know how you can't be concerned about what you saw from the Bears offense. I think it is a little bit overblown that Justin Fields only attempted 11 passes, because they only had 41 plays total offensively in that game, and roughly half of those were pass plays. You got to account for the 3 sacks and the several scrambles that he took. They need to get into a better flow offensively. If they don't have the ball, they're never going to be able to do that, and you can't just keep having these 3 and outs that are hurting you. You have to have a little bit more success on first down. I think that's a big thing for this team right now.
Yeah, and so that's the question, right? Is how do you do it? And I know that's probably been asked in a variety of different ways in these press conferences. What has been the sentiment that you've gotten from players and coaches about like how they plan to maybe open this thing up in week 3 after not really seeing much from this offense through 2 games?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to Matt Eberflus on Monday after that game. He said, we know that we need to do a better job in the passing game, and in so many words, he said we know that we have to get the ball, we have to play to our strength. Which to me that means we have to get the ball in Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet's hands, and they haven't been able to do that, because those are 2 of your best players. They've done a nice job getting touches for David Montgomery. That hasn't been a problem. He could have maybe done a little bit more with his touches in the first game, but in the second game, he looked really good against the Packers. I wouldn't be surprised if they make an effort to go to Mooney and Kmet early in the game, get them some touches, just to get the ball in their hands. Give him a short, easy pass, just to give Mooney some space, and maybe he can work with it. And even if it's not a big gain, you just got to get those guys involved some way, somehow. And I really think, they haven't specifically said that, but I think that's what they're going to do here in this first quarter.
Reception props might be worth targeting then for those 2 players. Just Mooney is 3.5 at Caesar Sportsbook, and Cole Kmet is down to 2.5 at Caesar Sportsbook, and he's been usually hovering around the 3.5 range through the first 2 weeks. Have you noticed anything maybe and rewatched the games, or maybe from what players or coaches have said to maybe is the reason why these 2 players haven't been as involved in the pass game as expected this early in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is sort of a factor of just the way those 2 games played out. You got the monsoon game in week 1 against the 49ers, where passing became really hard in the second half. That is sort of its own sort of thing. And then you look at the Packers game, and they didn't have a lot of offensive plays. Mooney was targeted. There was a deep ball that he just couldn't connect with Justin, and Cole had a drop that really should have been caught. It was right over the middle. It was the type of pass that he catches, 9 out of 10 times, and he just dropped it. And it goes back to the fact that they didn't have a lot of offensive plays in that game. And I know that Matt Eberflus was talking about how, the run game was working. So we stuck with the run game, and that's good. I get that in that situation, but you also ate up a lot of clock, and you were down 14 points, and you had nothing to show for it. When it was all said and done, I think they gotta make an effort to get those guys involved. And I really think they're going to do that.
Yeah, and that's the important thing to remember within all these football games, right? It's never just one thing. It's easy to say when we all watch this game on primetime Sunday Night Football that, hey, Justin Fields is the problem. And it's a combination of a lot of things, as you kind of been alluding to throughout the show. I wanted to get your thoughts real quick. The Bears are favored. They're expected to win this game almost. It almost feels like they have to win this game, right? Because there's only so many, winnable games on this schedule for a team like this. What are the keys to doing just that, winning the game and maybe covering the 2.5 point spread?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Get that run game going earlier in the game. Find some success doing that, because that's going to open up a lot of things. And if you can get Justin in any sort of a rhythm, passing the ball, that's going to work wonders for this offense. If he's confident out there, if he's slinging the ball around a little bit more than it doesn't even have to be a lot more than what we've seen, just a little bit more to get him into a rhythm offensively. That's really going to help there. And then, defensively, you gotta keep an eye on Damien Pierce, the rookie running back from Houston or for Houston, out of Florida, I believe. He's he looks like he's off to a promising start, and I think they're going to rely on him more and more as the season goes on down there in Houston, and that should be the number one thing that you're kind of afraid of from that Houston offense. There's not. This is probably going to be a bit of an ugly game. We're talking about two teams that aren't expected to have winning records when this season's all said and done. So you're not necessarily fearful of Davis Mills and the Texans offense, but I think they have some potential there with their young running back, and certainly you want to keep that in check because the Bears haven't, they've allowed a lot of running. They've allowed teams to run on them, and I know we're talking about the 49ers and Packers, who are two of the better running teams. You got Aaron Jones, and you got the 49ers, who do all sorts of funky things with Kyle Shanahan calling the plays. You want to see a little bit more success in that area against a team like this.
Yeah, and important to note, you kind of mentioned Justin Fields there early on and how he's a key to this game. Probably a buy low opportunity on him from prop bet market wise. I mean, he is down to passing yardage is down to 176 was his over under at Caesar Sportsbook this afternoon. Compare that to the first two games where he was like 195, 196 each of the first 2 weeks. I mean, this is definitely, the market's definitely adjusting on Justin Fields, and maybe this is a chance for bettors to buy low if you feel like this is his best chance to kind of break out and this offense get going. Let's close this out with a prediction. What is your official prediction for this game and what you'll be watching?
Yeah, I know the weather is going to be a little bit better, but with these two teams, I still think this is going to be kind of ugly. I have the Bears winning. I have it 17-13. So a pretty close game, one possession game, but I do think that the Bears are going to be able to pull this out at home.
Well, that would lean more towards the spread where it's 2.5 and less so on the total, unless you're betting the under, because that is 30 combined points. The total currently at Caesar Sportsbook is 38.5. Woo. This may not be your offense's showcase on Sunday.
It might not be, but you know what? Sometimes weird things happen when you got two mediocre teams facing off.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. He is Sean Hammond. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was great stuff again, and try to enjoy the game on Sunday.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. Thanks for having me on as always.
All right, see ya. He is Sean Hammond. You can follow him at Sean_Hammond. He's our Bears beat reporter. He is great at what he does. As I say every Friday, it's really great to have him on and just kind of get some sort of insider knowledge. I mean, he's talking to these players and coaches every single week, and he has a good feel for maybe the general vibe going into a given week. As for me, I have been betting, obviously, both of these games. We did not get our over last weekend. Justin Fields getting stopped there on 4th and goal in a play that he probably shouldn't have ruled a touchdown was the difference in that over not cashing. I know the total's low, and I know what Sean just said, but I'm itching to bet another over with the Bears game, which could be proved to be an issue again. I have not yet decided on that, but 38.5 is incredibly low. This thing was 41 at one point. We're talking about a total that is similar to what week 1 was when it was a monsoon. And obviously it went under the total in the monsoon as well. But you have to believe that the Bears will at least do something offensively to kind of open this thing up and maybe have their best showing yet on that end of the field. And on the vice versa, I mean, the Texans, they've been competitive. And Davis Mills, he seems to be healthy. I think he was a full participant today. He was dealing with that kind of thumb injury. So I don't know. As we saw with Steelers and Browns literally just last night, sometimes these bad teams with underwhelming quarterback play can lead to that short field and easy scores. The over ended up cashing on that one even before the disaster that was the final play of the game. So I don't know. I've not jumped in on the over just yet, but that is what I'm tempted to do. It does feel like maybe Bears is the right side, especially if you're getting 2.5. Once you get to the full 3 of the key number, I'm not sure how tempted I am to actually bet the Bears. But if you can get 2.5 at the -110, that feels like the best time. Because here's the thing: like, there's no such thing as must-win games, but this feels like a game you have to take care of business. I mean, the implied odds would say the Bears have a 60% chance of winning this game. The Texans are a team that are the favorite to win have the number one overall pick. They are not favored in a single game this season. And when you look at all the look-ahead lines, this feels like a game that the Bears can't lose. And if not, if they do, they're looking at a disastrous season. So I don't know. If you're someone who is still optimistic about the Bears and maybe getting over that win total, I mean, I think you have to take the Bears on the side, especially under the key number. But that said, I could argue the other way around, right? I wrote up on shotlocal.com/bet today. The win total has stayed the same. It is 6.5. That's what it was before the season. The difference being the juice on the under was much steeper before the season. It was like, I think at one point, like minus 150, something crazy like that. And now it's minus 125. Still 6.5, but that was the most popular under win total of bet entering the year. And if you still believe that, if you were still one of those people who said, yeah, the Bears are going to be horrible, they're going to win fewer than 6 games, maybe compete for the number one spot or number one overall pick, then you have to take the Texans this week. Like, you're a fraud if you don't. So I could argue either way. I do think that this could be a pivotal week and how you view the Bears. The NFL is fluky on a week-to-week basis. Like, nothing really surprises me in the NFL, but in terms of what this overall season could be for the Bears, like, this week could be a pretty big one. As for the rest of my picks, I have been writing about them basically all week at shawlogo.com/bet. Jumped on the Lions way too early. That number is long gone, but it's going to end up being a pretty popular dog. I think it's still 6 is the best number you can get. Still like it at 6. The Vikings coming off that Monday night game, short week, and the Lions can score. Anybody who can move the ball the way they do and getting that many points deserves a look at all times. The Lions are, I believe it is now 12-6 against the spread under Dan Campbell. Like, they never give up. They move the ball. And so they're always worth a look when they're getting that many points against a division rival. So I've come a long way already. And just 2 or 3 short weeks, I'm already betting the Lions as opposed to fading them last week. Do really like the Chiefs, as I've mentioned all week as well. The Chiefs currently minus 5.5 is what you can get. This sets up for a pretty favorable matchup for them. They get 10 days to prepare for a defense that is coached by Gus Bradley, who runs that covers 3 scheme. And that tends to be the scheme that Patrick Mahomes likes to face. He put up some pretty good numbers against a team like that. Gus Bradley coached the Raiders last year, for example, and the Chiefs scored 40+ in both games against the Raiders. The Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid averaged 33.3 points per game in 7 meetings against a Gus Bradley defense since Patrick Mahomes entered the league. So really like the Chiefs this week. I've bet them in every single way you could possibly imagine. It's minus 5.5. I bet their team total. I bet them over on the total. And obviously I will bet the Patrick Mahomes touchdown prop as well. Could end up looking square on Sunday, right? Like, people who are smart and are sharp people came in on the Colts in this buy low opportunity. That's why I went from, the 7-point spread down to 5.5. So it's your classic, sharps versus squares. And so it could be very square come Sunday when you're on the Chiefs. But I still think it's a matchup they can exploit. They're playing in a dome. This has less to do with the Colts. My entire handicap in this game is all about the Chiefs. And honestly, they probably didn't play their best game and still came away with a win against a much better team last week. I think this is going to look similar to what they did in week 1 against the Cardinals. Christopher Mon says MVS anytime touchdown, book it. Also worth playing the touchdown scorer props in any game you expect to be a lot of points. Would agree with that. I do play the touchdown scorer props in every single Bears game. I write up a story every Sunday for shawlocal.com/bet. So make sure you read that on Sunday morning. You'll see who I am betting in this Texans-Bears Week 3 matchup to score a touchdown. That's going to do it for today's podcast, the Bet Chicago Sports Podcast. This was a lot of fun to talk to Sean Hammond to preview the Bears-Texans game and Week 3, what could be a pivotal week for the Bears. For Sean Hammond, I'm Shane Jackson. Thank you so much for listening to the Bet Chicago Sports Podcast, and see you next time.